What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Last night was an emotional one for Aspinall as he watched his teammate Ante Dalia make his UFC debut in stunning fashion. The atmosphere was electric when Ante stepped into the octagon against Marcin Tybura, and what happened next had everyone on their feet. With absolute determination and focus, Ante delivered a powerful knockout that sealed his debut in unforgettable style. The crowd erupted, the energy surged, and Tom could not hold back his emotions. He jumped up, clapping and shouting in support, yelling, "Come on, let's go," as the arena roared in approval. Tom's reaction showed just how much it meant to him. You could see it in his eyes, hear it in his voice, and feel it in every cheer. For him, it was not just about a teammate winning, but about witnessing a lifelong dream come true. Ante had been waiting for this opportunity his whole life, working endlessly, training, sacrificing, and staying dedicated to his craft. To finally see that dream come alive with such an explosive finish was truly special. Tom called him an awesome guy, a great guy who deserved every bit of that moment. The pride, the respect, and the brotherhood between them were crystal clear. It was about more than just a fight. It was about a journey, about perseverance, and about proving that hard work pays off. The way Tom celebrated, clapping and shouting with genuine joy, showed just how much this win touched his heart. Ante's debut will be remembered not just for the knockout, but for the raw emotions that followed. For Tom, it was a reminder of why moments like these in the UFC are so powerful, so inspiring, and so unforgettable. Before moving to the next news, we have one quick request for you. We are constantly working on improving our content to earn your love and support. That is why we truly appreciate it if you could take just a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update here on MMA Pulse News. Moving on to another news, Whittaker shared his reaction to the fight between nassourdine, Imavov, and Boralho, and he had a lot to say about the performance. According to Whittaker, Imavov put on what he called a clinic, but not in the sense of a completely one-sided fight. Instead, it was a display of technical mastery, sharp striking, and intelligent fight IQ that stood out. Whittaker praised the way Imavov approached the fight, noting his ability to mix up attacks, switch targets, and keep his opponent constantly guessing. One of the key things that impressed Whittaker was Imavov's counter-striking. He described it as amazing, pointing out just how quick, sharp, and precise he was. Imavov worked beautifully to the body, then transitioned up top with clean and effective strikes, making it very difficult for Boralho to find his rhythm. Whittaker explained that Imavov created problems from all sorts of angles, especially in the early rounds, when his speed and accuracy were overwhelming. He loved watching the way Imavov blended his offense with patience, never rushing but always staying dangerous. However, Whittaker also noticed a shift in round 3. He felt that Imavov began resting a little too much, waiting for openings rather than pushing the pace. This, he said, was dangerous because Boralho thrives in those moments. When given space and time, Boralho can get creative, using his unorthodox style to launch strikes from unusual angles. That is when the fight becomes unpredictable, and Whittaker acknowledged that Boralho started finding opportunities once Imavov slowed down. Still, the momentum swung back in Imavov's favor. Whittaker pointed out that in the 4th round, Imavov once again picked up the pressure, controlling the center of the octagon and dictating the pace. He stalked Boralho, cutting off movement and forcing him to fight off the back foot. Whittaker admired how Imavov maintained composure and adjusted when needed, showing not just skill but also fight maturity. In his breakdown, Whittaker made it clear that Imavov's striking display was something special. From sharp counters to creative setups, it was the kind of performance that leaves an impression on fellow fighters. For Whittaker, it was a reminder of how high-level striking, patience, and smart adjustments can completely control a fight inside the octagon. Moving on to another news, Ilia made headlines after running into boxing superstar Terence yesterday. The featherweight champion posted a photo of their meeting on X, sparking instant reactions from fans. In his first post, Ilia simply asked, "Who wins in a fight?" The image alone generated plenty of buzz, with fans debating whether an MMA fighter like Ilia could hang with one of boxing's pound-for-pound greats. But Ilia wasn't done there. Earlier today, he followed up with another bold statement that turned even more heads. In his second post, Ilia shifted the conversation away from the octagon and placed it directly inside the boxing ring. He wrote that he would not talk about what might happen if he and Crawford ever met in MMA, because that would be obvious. Instead, he wanted to address what would happen in boxing, and that's where his confidence shined through. Ilia claimed that if he and Crawford were to face off in the ring, he would put him to sleep on the very first contact. That statement instantly stirred controversy and excitement online, as fans from both sports began to argue about how realistic such an outcome could be. For Ilia, this wasn't just about throwing out a random comment, it was a clear message of self-belief. He's known for being fearless, outspoken, and confident in his abilities, and this was another example of him embracing that mindset. To call out a fighter like Crawford, who is widely regarded as one of the best boxers of this generation, shows that Ilia is not afraid of crossing boundaries and stepping into conversations that bridge MMA and boxing. The rivalry between these two combat sports has been around for years, with fans often comparing champions from both worlds. Conor once stepped into the boxing ring against Floyd Mayweather, and now comments like this from Ilia bring that crossover energy back into the spotlight. Whether or not the fight ever happens, Ilia's claim has already done its job, igniting debate, stirring hype, and keeping his name buzzing across both MMA and boxing communities. For now, it remains just a statement, but one powerful enough to make waves. Ilia's bold words show he is more than willing to challenge anyone anywhere, whether it's inside the cage or even under boxing rules. Moving on to another news, the MMA world was shaken earlier this year when former two-weight champion Jon Jones announced his retirement in June. The decision came at a time when many believed an undisputed fight with heavyweight champion Aspinall was already on the table. Dana White had spoken about that matchup as if it were close to being finalized, which made Jones' sudden retirement all the more shocking. For a moment, it seemed like one of the biggest potential heavyweight fights in UFC history had been lost before it could even happen. But just days later, everything flipped once again. When the UFC announced plans to host a historic card at the White House in 2026, Jones appeared to backtrack on his retirement, sparking speculation about whether he was truly done or just teasing the fight world. Still, Dana White quickly shut down the possibility of Jones competing on that card, telling reporters that the odds of seeing him fight at the White House were 1,000,000,000 to 1. With that statement, it seemed like the UFC boss was trying to cool down the rumors before they got out of hand. The speculation, however, didn't die down. Instead, Jones himself decided to address the situation directly. On the red carpet at the MTV VMAs, he clarified his position once and for all. "I am not retired," he told Denise White. He explained that he is actively training 5 days a week and remains in the UFC's drug testing pool, which confirms he has no intention of leaving the sport behind. For fans and media alike, this was a strong statement, showing that despite the confusion, Jones still sees himself as an active competitor. When pressed about the White House event specifically, Jones admitted that the situation is not entirely in his hands. He said, "I don't really know. It's kind of out of my control right now. I'm training for the event. I'll be ready for the event. That's my goal. That's my intention, but ultimately it's up to the boss." His words highlighted both his desire to fight and his understanding that UFC decisions ultimately fall under Dana White's authority. For Jones, the message was clear. He's focused, he's training, and he's staying prepared as if another fight is inevitable. Whether or not it happens at the White House in 2026 is uncertain, but the fact that he is not retired and continues to grind in the gym means his story inside the octagon isn't finished yet. Fans may have been confused by the back and forth over his status, but now, Jones has set the record straight. He's still here, still committed, and still aiming for the biggest stages the UFC has to offer. Moving on to another news, Daniel Cormier gave a detailed breakdown of what JDM needs to do in order to find success against Islam at UFC 322 on November 15th, when Islam will once again defend his welterweight title. Cormier explained that the key challenge for JDM is going to be dealing with the wrestling of Islam, which has proven to be one of the most dominant weapons in the sport. Along with that, Islam's striking cannot be ignored, but Cormier stressed that it is the grappling and relentless control that makes him such a nightmare to face. Cormier pointed out that this fight will ultimately come down to whether JDM can stop takedowns and force Islam to strike with him over the course of a long fight. He referenced what happened in the Boralho Muhammad fight, saying that if JDM can keep the fight standing for extended periods, his chances of success grow significantly. However, as long as he is taken down and held on the mat, it is going to be extremely difficult to win, because no one is like Islam when he is on top. His pressure, control, and ability to finish from dominant positions are unlike anyone else in the division. Cormier emphasized that this is why Islam has been finishing nearly everyone he faces. He has finished 7 of his last 8 opponents, with the only exception being Alexander Volkanovski in their first meeting, where Islam still secured a unanimous decision victory. That track record proves how dangerous Islam is, not only winning but consistently finishing fights against top-tier opposition. For JDM to break that streak, he has to shut down Islam's #1 weapon, his wrestling. Cormier added that after watching the Boralho fight, it does appear that JDM has made improvements in this area. He seems better prepared now to defend takedowns and create scrambles than he might have been in the past. That development is going to be crucial if he wants to have any success on November 15th. Cormier acknowledged that this matchup is one of the most exciting fights the UFC could put together, and he expressed his happiness that the promotion is finally making it happen. He even shared a light-hearted moment, recalling how a few weeks back he was on a show, and someone online joked about muting his mic. Interestingly, JDM himself retweeted that clip, showing that he has a sense of humor and is fully engaged with the build-up to this fight. For Cormier, all of this builds anticipation, as he truly believes this is one of the very best fights available in the UFC right now. With JDM's striking toughness and improved defensive wrestling, paired against Islam's dominance and finishing ability, the stage is set for a showdown that fans around the world are eagerly waiting to see. Moving on to another news. Tom Aspinall was recently asked about the kind of questions he absolutely does not want to hear during interviews, and without hesitation, he gave his answer. The first thing he said was Jon Jones. According to Aspinall, if there was such a thing as a Tom Aspinall interview bingo, that would be the very first box ticked. He made it clear that any talk about Jon Jones is off limits, saying straight up that it's not going to get answered, no matter how often the question is asked. He laughed about it, pointing out how people keep trying to circle back to the same topic, especially fans who always seem to want to bring Jones into the conversation. Aspinall said that the most common variation of the question he gets is whether he thinks he could beat someone faster than Jon Jones, and that has become a heavy favorite among interviewers. Even though it keeps coming up, Aspinall was clear that it's not something he plans on entertaining. The conversation then shifted to lighter topics, as fans started throwing in fun random questions. One of them was about whether Aspinall would be getting new neck tattoos, which sparked some laughs. He shrugged it off with a smile, saying he doesn't think so, but at the same time, who really knows? It was one of those moments where he kept it playful, showing his sense of humor, while still making it clear that certain topics, especially Jon Jones, are just not on the table. For Aspinall, staying focused and avoiding unnecessary distractions seems to be the priority. While fans and media continue to push for the big-name matchups, he remains set on controlling the narrative in his own way. With his career moving forward, he's more interested in what's next rather than constantly looking sideways at questions that he feels don't need to be answered. Moving on to another news, Islam has not held back when it comes to sharing his thoughts on Mauricio Ruffy. After Ruffy made his UFC debut at 301, he came out swinging not just in the octagon, but also with his words. In a bold statement aimed directly at Islam, Ruffy declared, "Enjoy your days at the top because a new king is coming." That comment instantly drew attention, as very few fighters have the confidence to call out the lightweight champion so early into their UFC careers. Fast forward to UFC Paris Fight Week, and Ruffy doubled down on his attitude. Speaking about grapplers, he took aim once again, saying, "Train expletive if you want to put on boring fights." It was clear that Ruffy wanted to establish himself as a new kind of threat, dismissing the grappling-heavy approach that fighters like Islam have dominated with. His comments didn't go unnoticed, but Islam chose to remain silent at the time, letting things play out in the octagon before addressing them. Then came Ruffy's latest fight, and this time the result gave Islam all the ammunition he needed. After watching Ruffy struggle, particularly in the grappling exchanges, Islam finally broke his silence on X. His words were short, sharp, and direct. "Winner or lose, Ruffy has zero grappling. Train more, speak less, that's the key to success." It was a classic Islam response, dismissive yet brutally honest, sending a clear message not just to Ruffy, but to anyone thinking of questioning the foundation of his dominance. The timing of Islam's comment hit even harder, as it came right after Ruffy's loss. Instead of focusing on flashy stand-up or trash talk, Islam highlighted the truth that grappling remains one of the strongest tools in MMA. His point was that without a well-rounded game, especially strong grappling, it is impossible to reach the very top. By telling Ruffy to train more, speak less, Islam made it clear that words mean nothing if they are not backed up inside the cage. For Islam, who has built his reputation on smothering pressure, takedown mastery, and relentless top control, seeing a young fighter dismiss grappling was never going to sit well. And now, after Ruffy's setback, Islam's message carries even more weight. It was a reminder that talk is cheap, the octagon tells the truth, and only those willing to respect every aspect of the game can survive at the elite level. That's it from MMA Pulse News. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for daily MMA news.